Conflict is the core of an interesting storyline. A story without conflict is just another day. No one wants to see Wolverine hanging out in the park, feeding the ducks or chasing off that one goose. Geese are mean, look it up. They don't want to see Peter Parker cleaning out Aunt May's gutters, then sitting down for a homemade lunch with some mildly racist comments. We've all got that elderly family member. And so for a good story, one needs conflict, or it's just boring. Sometimes, though, writers go in the opposite direction and they create a little too much conflict. So here are 10 dark moments and storylines that Marvel has done to avoid the ducks in the park situation. Number 1 is domestic abuse. Hank Pym has had a rough go at it. Even though he and his wife Janet Van Dyne were founding members of the Avengers, Hank at one point was kicked off the team, and in order to prove his usefulness and impress his former teammates, he created a robot that only he could defeat. That robot's name? Ultron. Way to go there, pal. Of course, his wife tried to talk him out of it, explaining that it was a completely insane idea. And what does Hank do? He smacks her across the face, knocking her to the ground. This single moment turned one of the founding members of the Avengers into a wife beater. When Marvel revisited the situation in the Ultimate line, they decided to push it even further because the Ultimate Universe wasn't known for being subtle. This time, it wasn't a single blow, but instead both Hank and Janet exchanged blows. The scene ended with Hank using a can of bug spray on her and attacking her with his ants. That's pretty dark. But he does get to have Michael Douglas playing him in the movie, so I guess that's nice. Spider-Man Rain. Did you know that Spider-Man has radioactive semen? No? Well, then take notes, kids, when you say you want to be Spider-Man. Spider-Man Rain is a storyline that shows a potential dystopian future for old Webhead. In this darkest timeline, New York has been ravaged by supervillains and everyone that Peter Parker has cared about has been killed off. The saddest part is that his one-time love, Mary Jane, suffered from unknown radiation poisoning, and she died of cancer in what one would assume was a horribly painful death. It was only in the end that Peter realized that he had been filling her full of radiation that had been in his body for their entire relationship. Seriously? What kind of sick weirdo even thought of that? Probably sits in the dark writing poetry, listening to Cure a lot. But I digress. Kraven's Last Hunt. Some might think that with his witty one-liners, bright costume, and sometimes cheesy villains, look at you, fishbowl head, there hasn't been a lot of darkness in Spider-Man storylines. Anyone who knows anything about Spider-Man knows that this just isn't true. Published in 1987, Kraven's Last Hunt saw the hunter decide that he could establish dominance over the wall-crawler by defeating him in hand-to-hand combat. That wasn't enough dominance, though. After drugging him and burying him alive, Kraven dresses up as Spider-Man and brutally hunts down his villains to prove that he is superior in every way. After Spidey digs out of his own grave, he confronts Kraven, and Kraven doesn't even put up a fight, already considering himself the better man and the winner. He escapes using another villain as a distraction, and he returns to his mansion. Later that night, he reminisces all about what he's done in his life, and places a rifle barrel in his mouth and pulls the trigger. That's right, this story ends with the villain committing suicide because he feels like he will never accomplish anything better. Damn, that's dark. Cool covers, though. Spider-Man One More Day, Brand New Day. We could just do a list of Spider-Man stories alone. Someone probably came up with this one, not thinking about how it really sounds, though. When Aunt May was shot by a would-be assassin looking to take out Spider-Man, Peter does the only thing that makes sense. He makes a deal with the devil to save her life. Don't lie, we've all thought about doing it. Never mind the fact that Aunt May has lived a full life. Peter makes the deal and basically wipes out 20 years of canon to include him revealing his identity during the Civil War event and being married to the one and only Mary Jane. Where it really gets twisted, though, is when Mephisto taunts him with an image of a young redheaded girl. It's only in his very last moments that Peter and Mary Jane realize that this is the daughter that they would never get to have together. Honestly, this is more about the writers needing to make Spider-Man fresh again than making any sense plot-wise. I don't know who pitched this devil idea, but I wish I was sitting there in that meeting. I bet it was nuts. Iron Man, Demon in a Bottle. Tony Stark, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. After the success of the Iron Man movies, many comic book characters' mannerisms were adjusted to fit in line with Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony on screen. One thing both the character and the actor share, however, is a past experience with addiction. Published in 1979, Demon in a Bottle showed Tony's spiral into alcoholism. As Tony begins to drink more heavily, his problem causes him to accidentally kill a foreign dignitary and almost lose Stark Industries completely. Marvel's portrayal of Tony's addiction was handled in a very realistic and emotional way, elevating the storyline and making it one of the more pivotal moments in the character's history. This is one point in the character's canon that I doubt will ever pop up in the family-friendly franchises. We did get a brief mention of it during one of the Iron Man movies, but not like this. Daredevil Apocalypse. Daredevil is a dark character. In my opinion, Daredevil is at his best when he's portrayed as a noir character who protects the citizens of Hell's Kitchen from the shadows. When Frank Miller, a writer known for his gritty stories, took over writing Daredevil, things probably weren't going to be sunshine and roses for the Hornhead. In number 227, we see Matt Murdock's one-time love interest, Karen Page, who had left long ago to become an actress in LA. Now she's a heroin addict and a porn star in Mexico, so it's safe to assume that things didn't quite go as planned. In her need, Karen sells Matt's secret identity for a low price of a single shot of heroin. To be fair, I assume that's low. I don't actually know how much heroin costs or really how you even measure heroin cost factors. Is there like a online documentation for that kind of a thing? Eventually, the information makes its way to Kingpin, who proceeds to make Matt's life a living hell for 6 months. He freezes Matt's accounts, forecloses on his apartment, and pays a witness to bring Matt in court. Oh yeah, and Karen? She goes on to contract AIDS and is eventually killed by Bullseye. Happy endings all around, folks. Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is a tale of redemption during the end of days. It's about Logan doing his best to take care of his family when he thinks that he doesn't deserve anything good in this world. At least that's how it starts. During the course of the story, we learn that Logan single-handedly wiped out the entirety of the X-Men, slaughtering them while Mysterio filled his head with illusions. This series is just violence and gore, scene after scene. Just when you think it can't get any worse, you gotta flip the page. Hawkeye's daughter tries to kill him after she takes over as a crime boss. Logan cuts Red Skull in half using Captain America's shield. Bruce Banner has become a hillbilly crime lord and has a family of ancestral children that he had with his cousin She-Hulk. Oh, and that family Logan's trying to protect? Yeah, they got murdered off panel by Banner's ancestral children, causing him to kill every single one of them in one gore-filled panel after another. To top it all off, Logan actually cuts his way out of Hulk's stomach once he heals after being eaten alive. Oh yeah, and at one point, Logan and Hawkeye drive up the butt of Giant Man's skeleton. Just wanting to leave you with that image. Next up, we have Ruins. There are a few writers that go for dark stories. Warren Ellis is one of those writers. Ellis takes a look at the Marvel Universe if things didn't happen in a brightly colored world. This comic just has dark moments from start to finish, and I honestly didn't have time to list everything here. So let me just read off some highlights for you. Wolverine's flesh is slowly falling off due to the toxic nature of the adamantium attached to his bones. Bruce Banner is hit with gamma radiation, and he's turned into a giant green tumor monster for a few minutes before he died in what is probably an incredibly painful way. Jean Grey is a prostitute, for reasons, who's killed in a murder-suicide by Nick Fury. And the X-Men are in a prison where they've all been mutilated in an attempt to control their powers. Honestly, just writing that gave me the chills. I'm gonna go watch some cartoons. Up next, we have Ultimate Comics Ultimatum. The original idea for the Marvel Ultimates comics was a modern redesign of their characters, allowing new readers to get into the comics without having to sift through decades of backstories. It worked for a time, giving people a gritty, more realistic take on some of the more popular characters. However, in 2004, the Ultimate line had just become as bloated as anything else Marvel was running at the time. Sales began to slump, and the big wigs decided it was time for a drastic change. Enter Ultimatum, designed to wipe the slate clean. In this story, Magneto has vowed revenge against the Ultimates, which is the Ultimates universe of the Avengers, for the deaths of his children. Acquiring the Hammer of Thor and combining its magic with his own mutant powers, he alters the Earth's rotation, causing a massive tidal wave that wipes out several major Earth cities. There are a total of 34 deaths within the 5-issue miniseries, which includes Wasp being eaten by the Blob, leading to Hank Pym becoming giant and biting off his head, Wolverine becoming disintegrated by Magneto, and Magneto getting his head blown off by Cyclops. Cyclops is assassinated by a bullet to the head, and Dr. Doom's head is squashed by Ben Grimm. Conflict makes for an interesting story, but I think everyone can agree that Marvel went a little too far to the dark side of the spectrum for this one. And lastly, we have Punisher Max in its entirety. Written by Warren Ellis, Punisher Max is the mature audience version of Punisher that places them in a more realistic setting. Realistic is a loose term, however, for this series. There are evil people in this world, and no one can argue that, but in the Punisher Max universe, all of those people are met by Frank. There are no puppies, kittens, or bunnies in this world, just murderous, psycho, cannibalistic animals. This is a grim and gritty Punisher, dark to the extreme. Honestly, to list every moment and storyline in this series would push the envelope to take several videos. I'll just say that if you're looking for a mature take on vigilantes, this book is for you. Go out and read it. End of story. And there you have it, 10 dark storylines in the Marvel Universe. Now, We're probably going to take this further, bringing you 10 more dark storylines or giving you more dark storylines for individual superheroes. So let me know in the comments down below individual superheroes you would like to know just their dark, gritty, mature storylines. I'm Benny for Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to get more of this, and like this video to let us know you want more top 10s.